The attendant's eyes narrowed as she approached, heels clicking against the marble. "Excuse me," she said, voice clipped. "These seats are reserved for first-class passengers only." The mother looked up calmly, folding her hands over her purse. "They are first-class travelers," she replied, soft but firm. A pause stretched across the lounge, passengers shifting in their chairs, some leaning forward, some glancing at their phones. The twins remained seated, reading quietly, unaware of the tension boiling just a few feet away. "I'm sorry, but I need to see your tickets," the attendant insisted, leaning closer. Her words carried the weight of authority, but also an edge of unspoken judgment. The father, returning from a call, stopped just behind them, observing silently. His presence was unannounced, unassuming, but it shifted the air. The attendant's jaw tightened. "This is company policy." "I must ask," the father interjected without raising his voice. "Do you see them as children out of place, or do you see them as guests with proper reservations?" The attendant faltered, her script crumbling. I just," a reporter whispering nearby muttered, "this is going viral if anyone records it." A fellow passenger's voice, hesitant, broke the silence. "Why don't you just let them sit?" The attendant's eyes flicked toward the growing attention, her composure fraying. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the boarding passes. The mother's gaze never wavered. Quietly, she said, "You're done." A hush fell over the room, phones clicked, whispers circulated, yet no one spoke above a murmur. The power had shifted, subtly, without a spectacle, and the attendant realized it in the slow, unbearable weight of watching eyes. The father stood behind the twins, silent, unwavering. "Sit," he said. Just one word, yet the room seemed to exhale, acknowledging that dignity had reclaimed its place. The twins' heads barely moved as the attendant approached again, hesitating now, unsure. "Please, step aside," she said, voice strained. The younger twin looked up, soft eyes steady. "We're allowed here," he said quietly, almost a whisper. The mother's hand rested on his shoulder, fingers tight. "Calm. Sit," she said. Her voice carried the weight of years of silent injustices, of lessons learned in rooms like this, of microaggressions endured without protest. The father's gaze swept the room, noting passengers shifting, some avoiding eye contact, others sneaking glances at the tension building. "Do you see them as children, or do you see the reflection of every barrier you've ever upheld?" he asked, voice measured, precise. The attendant's jaw tightened. "I am just following procedure," she stammered, the rehearsed lines breaking against the calm authority in the room. A passenger muttered, "This is ridiculous. Just let them sit." Another whispered into their phone, recording silently. This could go viral. The twins, still reading, didn't respond, but their posture straight, unshaken, spoke louder than words. The mother exhaled slowly. "We've sat through worse, and we will sit through this too." Calmly, firmly, the father leaned closer to the attendant, still quiet. "Do not mistake their silence for weakness. They carry the weight you've tried to ignore, and you will answer for it in this room." The attendant's hands shook slightly as she gestured toward the seats. She realized the room had shifted. Authority no longer rested with her. The whispers grew louder, cameras focused, and eyes observed silently, judgment palpable. The twins finally closed their books, sliding smoothly into their seats. The mother's hand lingered on their shoulders. No words were needed. The room exhaled, recognizing that dignity had reclaimed its space. The attendant stepped closer, her heels tapping with deliberate precision. "Excuse me," she said, voice courteous but edged with an unmistakable sharpness. "I need to see your boarding passes again." The mother looked up slowly, folding her hands neatly on her lap. "You've seen them," she said softly. "They are correct." The attendant's smile didn't falter, but her eyes hardened. "Company policy requires verification. I cannot make exceptions." The younger twin's gaze met hers, steady. "We already followed the rules," he said, quiet, unflinching. A passenger muttered under their breath, "Why are they making this so difficult?" The father, standing just behind, finally spoke. "Policies exist to serve fairness, not to uphold personal bias. Are you serving fairness today?" The attendant's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her clipboard. I'm following protocol," she said, each word strained, rehearsed. The mother's eyes flicked to the twins. "We've waited through countless silences and looked away as systems decided we didn't belong," she said quietly. "Today, we sit where we are meant to sit." A faint clicking from a phone sounded in the background. "This is going viral," a reporter whispered. The attendant's composure cracked. Her smile faltered, a muscle in her jaw ticking. The father leaned in, voice calm, authoritative. Do not hide behind policy. Recognition is earned by truth, not authority. You are accountable in this room, here and now. The attendant swallowed, her eyes darted, passengers watching, whispers circulating. The armor of authority she had carried so long felt suddenly heavy, brittle, insufficient. The mother nodded toward the seats. It ends here. She did not raise her voice. She did not gesture. The attendant stepped back, the room recognizing that the true authority had always been dignity, quietly, unyieldingly present. I'm sorry, the attendant said again, voice low but firm. These seats are reserved for first-class travelers. The mother's hand rested lightly on her child's shoulder. They are first-class travelers, she said, calm, almost a whisper. But each syllable carried the weight of generations. The twins glanced at each other, subtle nods passing between them. Their eyes were steady, reading, waiting. A fellow passenger shifted voice, barely audible. Can't she just sit? The attendant swallowed, paper trembling slightly in her hands. I must follow protocol, she said, voice tight. Father stepped forward slowly, voice measured, piercing through the low hum of the lounge. Protocol exists to protect fairness, not to enforce exclusion. The attendant's gaze flickered toward him. Her composure faltered. Sir, I'm just doing my job, she said, a nervous edge creeping in. A phone clicked somewhere behind her. Someone was recording. Whispered comments rippled across the lounge. This isn't right. The mother's hand squeezed her son's shoulder. We have always been told to wait, to stay silent. Today, silence is not compliance. The attendant's jaw tightened. She glanced around, eyes avoided hers, passengers watching quietly, cameras raised. The father leaned closer, tone low, authoritative. Recognition is not given by uniform or title. It is earned by truth. You will acknowledge it here. The attendant's hands shook as she set down the boarding passes. The armor of authority she had worn for years felt brittle, heavy. The twins slid into their seats without a word. The mother's gaze lingered on the attendant, calm, unwavering. The room shifted. Silence now carried the weight of justice, and no one could ignore it. A man shifted in his seat, phone half-breezed. I shouldn't record this, he muttered under his breath. A woman nearby whispered, it's uncomfortable. Her eyes darted toward the twins, who sat still, reading, untouched by the chatter around them. The attendant's voice trembled slightly. Please, just follow the rules. The mother's gaze didn't waver. We are following them, that is all. A teenager leaned toward her friend. Why is everyone so quiet? Can't someone say something? The friend shook her head. Better not, nobody wants trouble. The father stood a few steps away, calm, watching the room, noting each glance that flickered then turned away. No intervention, no support, just the hum of collective indifference. A reporter whispered into her recorder, almost to herself. This is going to go viral. People will see. Another passenger cleared his throat. Shouldn't we say something? It's wrong. A soft murmur traveled, but it faded quickly. Silence reclaimed the space. The twins exchanged a glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. Some will never act, the younger said quietly, almost a sigh. The father's voice cut softly through the tension. It is not weakness to wait. It is strength to endure with dignity. The attendant's shoulders slumped. She realized. The room was watching, yes, but not intervening. The weight of everyone's inaction pressed upon her. The mother's hand rested on her son's arm. They watch, but they do not intervene. That is their choice. A pause stretched across the lounge. Phones lowered, eyes turned inward. The silent complicity felt heavier than confrontation. The father exhaled slowly. Let them watch. Let them see what restraint looks like. The room seemed smaller now, the quiet louder, and the twins finally smiled, ever so slightly. Reclaiming space without a word, the mother held the tickets out, fingers steady despite the weight in her chest. Here, she said softly, all valid, all in order. The attendant leaned closer, eyes narrowing. These are correct. Her tone clipped, almost rehearsed. I need to see IDs. The twins exchanged a glance. Their small hands clutched books tighter. It's okay, whispered the older one, trying to mask trembling. The mother's jaw tightened, voice low. They're first-class passengers. That's all you need to know. The attendant's smile didn't reach her eyes. Company policy, she said, waving a hand toward the tickets, requires verification. A passenger cleared his throat. Isn't that enough? They've shown everything. She didn't respond. She shook her head slowly. Not enough. The younger twin whispered. Why? Why does she do this? The mother's hand rested on her shoulder. Some people hide power behind rules, a fellow passenger muttered. It's petty. The attendant's lips pressed tight. I am only doing my job, your job, the father said, finally stepping forward, voice calm, deliberate, is not to humiliate. She glanced at him, hesitation flickering for a fraction of a second. Then, trained authority hardened her posture. Sir, this is standard procedure. The mother exhaled quietly, voice almost to herself, and dignity. The twins looked up briefly, eyes steady. Silence filled the lounge, heavier than any words. The father's gaze swept the room. Look around, nobody is defending them. Nobody, yet they remain calm. That is more powerful than shouting. The attendant shifted, caught between protocol and the silent weight pressing on her. She stepped back, but the shadow of doubt lingered. Mother retracted her hands slowly, tickets clutched to her chest, holding herself upright. The children's shoulders squared. Quiet resilience had replaced the sting of accusation. The attendant folded her arms, voice firm. Sir, ma'am, you must follow procedure. The mother's hand tightened around her child's. We are following it. We have done everything required. She leaned closer, a slow, measured tilt of the head. I need your IDs now. A cough echoed from behind. A passenger whispered. Is this really necessary? I said now, she repeated, sharper this time. Scanning the lounge as though expecting compliance to come from fear. The father stepped slightly forward. They've shown everything. Look at them. Are they not enough? The attendant's eyes flickered briefly, irritation brushing her features, but she forced a smile. I am only upholding company policy. Everyone is subject to verification. The older twin's voice broke slightly. It feels wrong. Do not speak out. Of turn, the attendant snapped, though her tone betrayed hesitation. The mother exhaled slowly, trying to steady her voice. I am asking you to see dignity too. Not just policy, a passenger muttered. This is public. Everyone can see. Another shifted in discomfort. Silence stretched, heavy, almost tangible. The attendant's clipboard shook subtly in her hand. Verification is required, she said again, quieter now, as if testing herself. The mother nodded once, calm, steady, then verify, but do it without tearing children apart. The twins sat straighter, eyes forward, breathing measured. The room's quiet weight pressed on her, each passenger a mirror of unspoken judgment. Finally, she lowered the clipboard. The room exhaled collectively, but her face remained rigid, dignity fraying quietly at the edges. The mother returned to her seat, children following, composed. No applause, no recognitions, just the subtle shift of power, visible in the attendants. Trembling hands and the cool, observing eyes around her, he stepped into the lounge quietly. A few heads lifted, then dropped again, eyes flicking nervously. Is everything okay here? His voice was calm, deliberate, carrying a weight that made the attendant pause. We're just verifying, she said, clipboard clutched like armor. Routine procedure. The father nodded once, unhurried. I see, and who decides what needs verifying? The attendant's hand faltered. Company. Protocol. He leaned slightly closer, tone soft, almost conversational. Protocol or perception. Her eyes darted to the twins. They sat upright, hands folded, faces pale but steady. They must show proof, she said, though her voice trembled slightly. Everyone does. He let that hang. Everyone. His gaze swept the passengers. Or only those who make them uncomfortable. A murmur rippled behind him. Phones were lowered, whispers silenced. Even the air seemed to pause. The mother's hand tightened around her child, eyes still forward. We are complying, she said softly, but we expect fairness too. The attendant swallowed. I am doing my duty. He straightened, voice quiet but firm. Duties are meaningless. If they harm the innocent, you see children, not threats. You see faces, not statistics. Can you do that? She blinked, the clipboard slipping slightly. Aye, then do it. He gestured, a simple, commanding motion. Let them be what they are, first-class travelers, as their tickets. Say. The twins looked up briefly, a faint relief crossing their faces. The mother exhaled quietly, composure intact. The room shifted. Conversations stalled. The attendant's jaw tightened, realizing the authority she wielded was fragile, dependent on compliance, not justice. He remained calm, shadow-like, letting silence enforce what words could not. His presence alone unsettled, corrected, and restrained. He didn't say anything at first. He simply met her gaze, calm and unwavering. She blinked. I am just following procedure, she stammered, clipboard trembling slightly. And what happens when procedure becomes cruelty? he asked softly, letting the question hang in the air. The mother's hand rested lightly on her child's shoulder. "We're not asking for special treatment," she said, voice quiet but steady. "We only ask that you see us." The attendant swallowed, her fingers tightening around the pen. I didn't mean you did," he interrupted gently, "but it's not too late to correct it, to see them as children, not intruders." A hush spread across the lounge. Passengers who had lingered with their phones lowered them. Eyes that had watched indifferently now softened. The twins straightened, their faces lifting, eyes reflecting a flicker of trust they hadn't dared to show. "Please," the mother said, "let this end without further humiliation. We are tired." Already the attendant's breath hitched. I need verification," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction now. He nodded slowly. "Verification isn't a weapon. You can do your duty without causing harm." She looked at the tickets again, hesitated, and then set the clipboard down. Her shoulders slumped, a quiet surrender in the weight of his gaze. The mother exhaled, softly, the tension easing. She looked at him, gratitude unspoken but clear, a bridge of trust forming silently. The children exchanged a brief glance, relief and dignity returning in small, unspoken measures. The room shifted imperceptibly, respect seeping into corners previously dominated by fear. The attendant's lips pressed together as she understood, finally, that one look could undo more than 1,000 rules, and silence could be more commanding than any voice. He stepped fully into the lounge, the soft click of his shoes sounding louder than any voice. She froze mid-sentence, a ticket half raised. "Sir," he didn't reply. Instead, his eyes swept slowly across the room, landing on her, then the children, then the mother. "I think you should sit down," he said finally, calm but firm. The attendant's mouth opened and closed. You were following procedure," he said, voice even, "but you forgot to see the human in front of you." A pause. The lounge seemed to inhale collectively. Passengers shifted, discomfort spreading quietly, some lowering phones, some stiffening in their seats. The mother's hand tightened around her child's wrist. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded subtly. No more, but the weight of his presence shifted the air. What are you doing?" The attendant stammered, voice cracking under pressure she hadn't anticipated. "Watching," he said simply, "watching the choices we make when no one is holding a mirror. Watching the dignity we either break or uphold." Her eyes darted to the children. Their small faces lifted, carrying themselves taller now, emboldened by his quiet assertion. Another pause. The room hummed with tension, every whisper and cough silenced by the gravity of a single line spoken. "You cannot fix all mistakes with a glance," he continued, "but you can decide which ones to stop perpetuating." The attendant swallowed, fingers trembling. She looked at the tickets, then at the family, then back at him. Understanding dawning too late for pride, but just in time for decency. He turned slightly, letting the silence stretch. "Let them be," he said. The room remained frozen, caught between relief and shame, the line lingering longer than any procedure. The authority of conscience rewriting the hierarchy in its quiet, undeniable way. He sank into the chair, letting the room's weight settle around him. "You know this isn't the first time," he said quietly, voice carrying across the empty lounge. The mother glanced up, startled. "What do you mean?" He shook his head, eyes tracing the ceiling. "Or of this, the tickets, the policies, the way people look away. It's been happening for years." A pause. The children fidgeted, listening without looking. "You're saying it's," she began. "Systemic," he finished for her. "These walls, these rules, they weren't built overnight. Every small humiliation, every whispered complaint ignored, every smile that hid judgment, they added up." She swallowed, fingers tightening on the edge of the seat, "and no one stopped it." "Some tried," he said, voice low, "but the machinery is patient. It buries the small stuff under forms, under procedures. Minor complaints dismissed until they become invisible, until people stop noticing the weight being carried." The mother's eyes flitted to the children, who looked smaller, fragile. "So, it's been like this all along?" "Yes," he said, "and that's why what just happened matters. Because cracks are rare. Cracks mean someone saw, someone noticed, and for the first time, maybe someone is willing to act, instead of look away." Another silence stretched between them, heavy and full. The children's shoulders straightened imperceptibly, as if sensing the pattern finally being named. "You're saying the line we just saw, the confrontation, it's more than one incident," she whispered. He nodded. "It's all connected. Every ticket, every glance, every protocol meant to keep people small. All of it, building invisible walls. And now, one voice, one presence, has made a dent. That's why eyes are on us, why everyone is holding their breath. The lounge felt colder, emptier, yet charged. The past had shadowed them, but the present dared to push back, and somewhere in that quiet, dignity began to reclaim its space. He leaned back, flipping through a stack of forms left on the counter. Look at this, he said softly, sliding one toward her. Every rule, every checkbox, it's a story. The mother frowned. A story, it looks like paperwork. He shook his head, voice low but sharp. No, look closer. Reserved seating, boarding priorities, verification required clauses. These aren't neutral. They protect people who already have protection. They keep others small, invisible. The children shifted in their seats, quiet but attentive. So it's deliberate, she asked. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for a form. Not always consciously, he admitted, but the effect is the same. Minor complaints vanish into filing cabinets. Requests for fairness delayed until people stop asking. Faces dismissed, voices ignored. The attendant had left, her rigid posture still echoing in the lounge. He exhaled, leaning forward. See this line here? It says first-class verification mandatory. But look at who gets asked for proof and who doesn't. Patterns emerge. If you pay attention, she whispered, they've built a wall of rules around people like us. Yes, he said, and the wall isn't new. It's been built slowly, one policy at a time, reinforced by smiles, nods, and silence. Every document shields bias. Every procedure deflects accountability, and most people never notice. Most people just comply. The children exchanged a glance, as if recognizing that something unseen had always been against them. Then the confrontation today, she said quietly. It wasn't just one family, he said. It was the system revealing itself. Even, briefly, a crack, and for the first time, that crack might let dignity through. The lounge remained hushed, the weight of rules heavier than the air itself. They had seen the machinery, now they understood the cost of silence. And somewhere, quietly, that understanding began to shift the balance. He stepped into the terminal with measured calm, the hum of announcements folding around him like background noise. No one recognized him immediately. Not the attendants, not Brooke, the passengers. She's asking for documents again, the mother whispered. I can't. He held up a hand, a slow gesture, and stayed back, letting the moment stretch. A child glanced toward him. Who is that? Someone who notices, he said softly. The attendant's eyes flicked past him, a subtle unease creeping in. He didn't confront her, he didn't speak. He simply observed, letting his presence settle like gravity over the space. She keeps asking for proof, the mother muttered, over and over. He nodded, voice quiet, deliberate. Rules were meant for order, but they've been shaped into shields. Shields for the few, barriers for the rest. And most people never challenge them. But this moment, you are. The children straightened in their seats, a whisper of courage growing. The attendant hesitated. The previous certainty in her stance wavered. A bead of sweat, a slight twitch. The mother caught it. You understand this, he said, stepping slightly closer, though still not intruding. You've been made invisible before, told to wait, to comply. But today isn't about compliance. Today, you occupy the space you were always meant to. The attendant's jaw tightened, her performance of authority faltering in silence. He said nothing more. He let the quiet grow, letting the weight of his reputation, decades of influence, unseen battles, strategic patience press without words. The mother exhaled, steadier now. The children relaxed slightly, feeling the shift. Even the air seemed to lean, acknowledging that someone who had navigated walls and ceilings unseen now chose restraint over spectacle. Power was present, but not loud, and in that subtle gravity, dignity began to reclaim its place. She's asking again, the junior attendant whispered, leaning closer to her colleague. I think, maybe she's going too far. The senior attendant glanced at her, eyes narrowing. Too far. It's protocol. She has to comply. The junior attendant shook her head slightly, voice low. Protocol isn't the problem. Look at her. Look at the kids. A child's hand twitched, gripping the mother's arm. The mother didn't speak. She let the quiet speak for her, steady and calm. Nearby passengers shifted in their seats. A man cleared his throat, pretending to check his phone. Another looked away, jaw tight. Eyes met briefly, then fell again. The unspoken understanding pulsed through the cabin. Someone was finally drawing a line. The father remained still, his gaze observing, measuring. Sometimes, he said softly, almost to himself, the smallest hesitation signals the largest change. The junior attendant swallowed, fingers tightening around the edge of the counter. I don't know if I should. You're already doing it, he interrupted quietly. Not with words. With awareness, you notice, you acknowledge. That's enough to start the shift. The senior attendant stiffened, frowning. Her authority felt lighter under the invisible weight of observation, her certainty fraying without anyone raising a voice. The mother met the father's eyes briefly. No words passed between them. The children straightened slightly, sensing the protective gravity surrounding them. Even the air seemed to lean differently, subtle ripples of accountability brushing against each person present. The junior attendant exhaled quietly, a tremor of courage threading through her hesitation. I see it now, she admitted softly, almost as a confession. The senior attendant's lips pressed into a thin line. She said nothing. The father stepped back slightly, letting the silence carry the moment. In that quiet, small tremors of challenge, spread unspoken yet undeniable, whispering that the old ways could be questioned even if no one dared speak outright. The older twin's hand brushed the younger's as they walked slowly past the line. She felt the pulse of the room, the weight of staring eyes, but kept her chin level, shoulders squared. You okay? The younger whispered, voice barely audible. Yeah, she replied, tight-lipped. We just keep walking. Don't give them anything. The mother's gaze caught theirs briefly, subtle encouragement hidden behind exhaustion. She said nothing. Her silence carried more instruction than words ever could. A passenger muttered something behind them, sharp and careless, but it didn't land. The twins didn't flinch. Their small bodies moved with a rhythm their parents had drilled into them. Resilience first, fear second. You remember what Dad said? The older twin murmured. Quiet is loud. Silence is stronger. The younger nodded. Their eyes flicked toward the attendant, whose posture had stiffened under the unseen scrutiny building like pressure around her. The twins felt it tooth a shift. Not a roar, not a confrontation, but an awareness settling unevenly in the air. They held it inside them, letting it anchor their composure. Just a little more, the older whispered. Almost there. A slight smirk of defiance crossed the younger's face, hidden from anyone else. They were invisible, yet unyielding. The mother's hand lingered on the older twin's shoulder, a silent signal of approval. No words, no relief, just acknowledgement. Each step forward became a statement in itself. Dignity cannot be demanded, but it can be carried. Each measured breath, each quiet glance, each unbroken posture was a rebellion. The twins moved in unison, a silent army, their resolve unspoken but absolute. In their quiet, the room's hostility faltered, the gaze of strangers now questioning rather than condemning. The weight of history pressed against them, yet they walked through it, unbroken, refusing to yield to shame, carrying strength like a shield no one could touch. The mother's eyes followed her children as they navigated the aisle. Small bodies, taut with silent resolve, her hands rested lightly on the cart beside her. Nothing tense, nothing conspicuous. She didn't speak. You're not saying anything, the older twin whispered from behind, cautious. She shook her head slightly, lips pressed together. Not yet, she murmured. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Nearby, a passenger shifted uncomfortably, noticing her calm demeanor. Whispers rose and fell, fractured. She's not reacting, someone muttered. The observation hung in the air, unresolved. The younger twin glanced back. Should we know? She interrupted softly, holding his gaze. Watch, learn, this is how you survive. Hold your dignity tighter than your anger. An attendant cleared her throat, glancing nervously toward the mother. The sharpness of her eyes met theirs briefly. For a moment, the authority in the room felt shaken, not loudly, not aggressively, but quietly, like a tremor under still water. She whispered to the twins, voice steady, measured. Strength doesn't always shout. A pause followed. The twins mirrored her composure, shoulders settling, faces leveling with a calm that was louder than any protest. The mic continued, clipped words. Casual dismissals, but they landed lightly against the mother's shielded presence. Every look, every gesture, she said, almost to herself, counts. You don't have to argue to be heard. Let them feel it without you raising your voice. Her children absorbed it, the lesson etched deeper than any lecture. Each slow step forward became a testament to restraint, each unbroken pause a subtle defiance. Around them, eyes shifted, confusion replacing certainty. The mother's quiet had rewritten the rhythm of the room. She breathed evenly, still calm, unyielding. The silence spoke volumes, louder than the chaos around them, louder than words could ever manage. The journalist's fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating. If this goes viral, it could burn, he whispered, voice low, almost conspiratorial. The mother glanced briefly, eyes steady, unreadable. She didn't flinch. The twins mirrored her restraint, faces composed, shoulders squared. Are you sure you should be doing that? The junior attendant asked, voice wavering. I mean, this is delicate. Delicate. The journalist's lips tightened. It's fragile. Sure. But people need to see. They need to know what happens behind closed doors. A passenger nearby coughed, glancing around. Silence filled the space between them. Each breath seemed amplified, each movement deliberate. The mother finally spoke, softly, almost a murmur. Careful what you ignite. Fire can reveal, but it can also destroy. He looked up, studying her face. I get it, he said. I'm not reckless. I know what's at stake. But this is bigger than us, isn't it? Her gaze lingered on him, calm, unyielding. It's always bigger than one person, she replied. Remember that. And remember to protect the children in the story, the ones who can't speak yet. He nodded slowly, scrolling through his notes, reconsidering angles, headlines, the ethics of exposure. Around them, the tension shifted imperceptibly. Some passengers stiffened, others leaned closer. Curiosity mingling with anxiety. The twins exchanged a glance. Silent communication passing between them, resilience reinforced. The mother's unspoken lesson had taken hold. Patience, observation, measured response. The journalist exhaled, lowering his phone slightly, uncertainty mixing with resolve. Then we handle it carefully. Truth without spectacle. She offered a faint nod. Careful can be powerful, she said. A quiet authority rippled outward, touching everyone in the room. The invisible weight of restraint now shared, the threat of revelation held in delicate balance. And in that pause, even the air seemed to wait, anticipating the spark that might change everything. A conference room hums with fluorescent light. Papers shuffled, laptops open, coffee cups steaming. They raised another complaint. One manager muttered, fingers tapping a tablet. Again, it's the third this month. Document it, another said flatly, glancing at the PR report. File it under standard procedure. No need to escalate. But this one feels different. A junior employee hesitated, voice small. She says the treatment was personal, targeted. Isn't that targeted or perceived? A senior executive cut in, leaning back. Perception is tricky. We need facts, not feelings. The room went quiet. Each person avoided the other's gaze. Silence thickened. I've read the emails. There's a pattern, the junior employee insisted. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. Patterns exist in every department, another replied, voice tight. We can't investigate every single claim. Resources, priorities, resources. She shot back, eyes narrowing. Human dignity isn't a budget line. A pause. Heads lowered. Fingers traced margins of reports, highlighting figures, dates, memos. I understand your point, the senior executive said slowly, voice measured. But the process protects the company, not individuals. That's how we maintain stability. Stability, the word hung, weighty, a shield for unseen injustices. I don't think anyone here disagrees, the junior employee murmured. But every ignored complaint is a message. Silence as policy is still a choice. The room shifted, subtle tension threading through air-conditioned calm. No one spoke further. Each understood the quiet. Institutional inertia is deliberate, shielding privilege while appearing neutral. Outside, the mother's quiet endurance, the twins' composed silence, the journalists' poised anticipation. They all traced the same thread. Behind closed doors, bureaucracy functions like an unseen wall. Each memo ignored, each hushed conversation, compounds the hidden violence that shapes every public interaction. Every invisible line crossed or defended. And somewhere, the room waits, machinery of power humming, unchallenged yet palpable, ready to face the scrutiny that might finally pierce it. A murmur travels down the aisle. Phones lift, eyes dart, fingers hover over screens. She's shaking him off again. Someone whispers, low, hesitant, I saw that. Another replies, voice barely audible. He didn't even notice well. He acts like he didn't. A third voice, should we say something? No, the first murmurs, tone conflicted. Let it unfold. Just watch. The twins glance at each other, subtle nods acknowledging the silent alliance forming around them. Their composure remains intact, yet inside, tension coils tighter. I think people are recording, someone else says, nearly under their breath. It's moving fast. The mother's calm shifts imperceptibly, eyes soft but aware, catching every flicker of doubt in the room. She doesn't intervene, letting the quiet strength of her presence convey more than any words could. Nearby, the journalist leans closer, thumb poised over the record button. This could go far, they murmur, more to themselves than anyone else. They won't see it coming. Did you hear that? A passenger mutters, glancing at the others. The way she stood like nothing can touch her. Another nods, whispering, it's contagious. I feel compelled to look closer, think harder. The oppressive figure across the aisle shifts, realizing subtle judgment is accumulating. A weight pressing invisibly on posture and expression. Eyes flicker, once steady, now uneasy. The silent assessment is a force itself, unspoken yet undeniable. As tension spreads, the room breathes differently. Small glances, quiet gestures, tentative acknowledgement, collective awareness stirs. Microaggressions, once invisible, now confront scrutiny. Authority, so long assumed, wavers. The oppressor's calm facade trembles ever so slightly. No one says a word, yet the balance of power subtly, irrevocably shifts. Silence becomes judgment, observation becomes resistance, and the quiet storm of awareness begins to move. A phone vibrates quietly on the table. She posted it. Someone asks, voice tight. Yeah. Another murmurs, thumb hovering over the screen. It's live. The mother's gaze flickers toward the screen. Calm exterior unbroken, but inside, tension coils. She knows this moment carries weight far beyond the cabin walls. A nearby passenger leans in, whispering, people are watching now. It's spreading. Already. Someone else asks, disbelief edging the question. Minutes, the first replies. It's like fire in dry grass. The twins glance at each other, silent acknowledgement passing between them. Their composed fronts hide racing thoughts, the anticipation of justice finally taking shape. Though quietly, without spectacle, a low murmur runs through the cabin, phones lifted, comments typed with care, reactions cautious but present. The journalist whispers, thumb paused. This could change everything. Public eyes. It's different now. Different how? A passenger asks softly. Accountability, the journalist says, voice low. Suddenly, the old rules don't hold. The air of authority falters when everyone can see. A brief silence stretches. Then one passenger mutters, almost to themselves, it's true. We saw it, all of it. Another nods, no more ignoring. The oppressor shifts, unsteady, glancing around. The facade of control wavers under the invisible pressure of collective witness. Their confidence, once absolute, now trembles in quiet, undeniable cracks. Narration, the first clip, simple and unpolished, moves like wind through dry reeds. Power, long protected by silence and indifference, meets scrutiny in real time. The world beyond the cabin begins to watch, shaping consequences that the oppressor cannot erase. One clip is enough. One moment, witnessed, ripples through hidden hierarchies, signaling that the era of silent endurance is no longer unchallenged. Passengers murmur again, a cautious symphony of recognition and resolve. Authority remains, but shaken, fragile, and in that fragility, dignity begins its quiet reclamation. The attendant's hand shakes slightly as she straightens her uniform. You okay? A passenger whispers, noticing the tremor. I'm fine, she says, voice barely above a murmur, but it lacks conviction. A pause. She bites her lip, staring at a phone held up by a passenger across the aisle. The recording plays again, now with captions. Everyone's seeing it. Someone murmurs, hesitant but curious. Her eyes flick toward the twins. Then their mother, whose calm composure seems to absorb the tension around her. The contrast is sharp, making the attendant's inner unrest more visible. I didn't mean for, she starts, halting mid-sentence, swallowing hard. Mean for what? Asks a passenger softly. It happened. We saw it. Her fingers clench the edge of the service car. Her breathing becomes audible, shallow. Each inhale and exhale seems louder in the sudden silence of observation. The journalist's gaze meets hers, steady and unflinching. Accountability doesn't wait for permission, the journalist says quietly. A flicker of panic passes over her eyes. She glances at the ceiling as if searching for some invisible escape. Micro-expressions betray her anxiety, a slight quiver at the corner of the mouth, a tightening of shoulders, a subtle backward lean. I'm just doing my job, she says, voice breaking slightly, rehearsed words collapsing under public scrutiny. Narration, the carefully maintained calm of years on the floor, rehearsed smiles, and procedural responses fractures under the weight of collective witnessing. Authority, once absolute in her small realm, falters. Micro-reactions, tiny, involuntary, human reveal, the internal collapse that policy and protocol could never prevent. Silence now holds more power than any announcement ever did. She steps back, hands trembling, eyes lowering. The room shifts. Subtly, passengers sit straighter, awareness settling into a quiet gravity. The balance of control, once unquestioned, begins its slow, inevitable realignment. A notification ping cuts through the low murmurs. The reporter's phone lights up again. Another clip. The journalist murmurs, fingers swiping from last month. Same pattern. Nearby passengers lean closer, hesitant, yet drawn. A young woman whispers, "I think I've seen this before. I reported it." Another voice says, timid, almost apologetic. No one listened. The twins shift in their seats. Their mother's calm gaze meets theirs, unshaken. Silence speaks volumes. Narration, every notification, every shared post, is a thread tying forgotten indignities together. Each voice once drowned in policy memos and HR dismissals now gains resonance, forming a chorus of accountability. People are talking, the journalist says quietly. They're remembering. They're speaking now. Does it matter? A passenger asks softly, will it change anything? The reporter glances up, eyes steady. It already is. Change starts when silence cracks. In unison, phones rise in small, subtle defiance. Each recording, each whispered memory, presses weight on the air. The attendant's earlier tremor seems smaller against the rising tide of acknowledgement. Every time they ignored us, a voice trails, shaky but firm. It only added to this. Narration, the past, once buried in hushed reports, now echoes through the present. Each ignored complaint, each subtle humiliation, strengthens the collective awareness. Oppression leaves marks not always visible, but always felt. The digital age renders them undeniable. "I can't believe it's out," mutters a man. They thought they could hide it all. The journalist lowers the phone, scanning the room. "No one's invisible anymore," she says. Eyes meet eyes. Passengers, the mother, the twins all witness one another. The weight of unspoken experiences converges. Authority that thrived on invisibility trembles, even in its absence. Each forgotten voice, now heard, pushes the room toward a quiet reckoning. The father rises, slow and deliberate. His eyes scan the cabin. No gesture, no raised voice yet. A ripple moves through the room. "Excuse me," he says, voice low but steady. "May we have a moment of attention?" The attendant stiffens. Fingers curl around the cart, knuckles white. A passenger leans forward. "Everything okay?" The father glances at them, then returns to the attendant. "We've seen what's been happening," he says quietly, "and we understand it better than you might think." Narration influence often works in whispers, not shouts. Here, authority does not yell, it commands through presence, through controlled composure. Every eye turns subtly, every posture shifts, without anyone needing instruction. "You don't have to explain," the mother says softly. Her gaze meets his, a quiet signal of solidarity. "I don't need to," the father replies. "It's enough that people notice." The attendant's lips tighten, hands tremble. The rigid calm she had worn like armor begins to fray. A young passenger murmurs, "He's calm." "Yes," says another, "and we're watching." Narration, a single figure, grounded and composed, can bend the room's tension without a word of confrontation. The invisible hand of authority reshapes expectation, perception, and fear simultaneously. The father leans back slightly, letting the silence stretch. Passengers adjust in their seats, previously unnoticed expressions now alert, aware. Mike shrink under the weight of his quiet vigilance. "You see," he continues, still calm, "people respond differently when dignity meets scrutiny." The attendant exhales, gaze lowered, a crack in her composed facade. The twins glance at their parents, understanding the unspoken message. Control can be exerted without aggression, power without violence. Narration, sometimes influence doesn't need to announce itself. It moves like air, silent, persistent, reshaping every corner it touches. Here it flows, unseen but undeniable, rewriting authority in real time. A man, 2 rows ahead, shifts in his seat, fingers fidgeting with the armrest. He looks briefly at the attendant, then away. A woman beside him lowers her gaze, an almost imperceptible nod. Narration, small movements, tiny acknowledgments, ripple outward. In silence they carry weight heavier than confrontation, louder than complaint. A teenager stands subtly, giving space as the father and mother settle their presence beside the twins. You okay?" whispers a young passenger to the woman next to her. She shakes her head lightly. It's just right to notice, she says, barely audible. The attendant's lips press tighter. Her hands twitch at the pocket of her uniform, checking nothing. Narration. Each minor act, an averted gaze, a careful step, the gentle granting of space. Authority is questioned not by argument but by refusal to participate in silent complicity. A man with a notebook scratches lines, hesitates, then tucks it away, joining the unspoken critique. I didn't realize, says another quietly, almost to himself. Now you do, the father replies, his voice steady but not raised. Narration. Influence need not yell. Compliance. Resistance. Awareness. These are the small gears that shift the machinery of power. The twins exchange a glance, recognizing courage and the subtleties around them. The mother's hand brushes briefly against one of their shoulders, a silent affirmation. The attendant glances around, catching the quiet consensus forming in the room. A flicker of uncertainty, a pause. Narration. The invisible scaffolding of dominance cracks where attention, respect, and simple human acknowledgement gather. No words are necessary. These gestures, tiny but resolute, redefine boundaries, rewrite moral authority, and give strength to the quiet heroes. A single nod from the father, subtle but commanding, completes the unspoken shift. The air itself seems to bend. Authority now, a question, not a given. A soft murmur threads through the cabin, barely audible but thick with expectation. Did you see that? Whispers someone, phone half hidden under a jacket. I hear everyone's seeing it now, another replies, eyes darting between the screen and the attendant. The attendant pauses, thumb hovering over her clipboard, lips pressed together. Her gaze flickers, caught between control and fear. Narration. Every glance, every whispered acknowledgement compounds. The viral clip, a silent witness, circulates invisibly, yet its weight is undeniable. The system that once stood unchallenged now trembles. A man leans forward, whispering to his companion, she's cracking. The father shifts slightly, posture firm, no words, no gestures beyond the calm certainty in his stance. Yet the effect is palpable. A woman tightens her grip on a bag, then slowly relaxes, signaling to those around her. Narration. Quiet resistance, careful observation, and restrained dignity converge. Each micro-expression, each tentative movement, stretches the tension taut. A teen raises a phone, hesitating, capturing the moment as the cabin seems suspended. You think management will even notice? A soft voice asks. They can't unsee it, the mother murmurs, her voice low but resolute. The attendant's fingers tremble slightly, clipboard rattling. Her posture wavers. Uncertainty seeps into the veneer of authority. Narration. Time dilates, each second pregnant with anticipation. The culmination of collective awareness readies the stage. Power, once absolute and silent, is now fragile, exposed by subtle yet unyielding acts. A single passenger exhales, barely audible. A nod passes between two nearby observers. Eyes lock, understanding flickering. Narration. This is the precipice. The moment before reckoning. The tension, built quietly, deliberately, has reached its apex. The next movement, however small, will tip the balance. The cabin is emptying slowly, a hushed energy lingering. Phones are tucked away, conversations soft, measured. She hasn't said a word, one passenger murmurs, eyes on the attendant as she gathers her things. She won't, that's all the statement she needs, replies another, voice calm but carrying the weight of judgment. Narration. The viral clip has done its work. Authority, once masked by routine and procedure, now stands diminished. The attendant's silence speaks louder than any apology could. Empty inboxes greet her return, colleagues avoid eye contact, and whispers trail her. Through the hallways. In a corner, the father gathers his coat, quiet but deliberate. His family follows, slow, unhurried, dignity intact. A coworker hesitates, then steps back, murmuring, I didn't realize. The attendant's hand trembles briefly over a folder, but she forces it steady. Narration. Each avoided glance, each subtle shift in posture, compounds isolation. The airline scrambles, drafting statements, calling emergency meetings, trying to contain the ripple that cannot be contained. Public awareness is now a living entity, reshaping perception, reshuffling. Power silently. A passenger nods at another in acknowledgement. That's justice. Quiet but undeniable. Another whispers, and it only took someone standing firm. The father pauses, glances toward the departing attendant, then down at his child. A brief, silent exchange. No words, only understanding. Narration. Quiet aftermath. The world outside has changed subtly but irrevocably. The oppressor falters, the system hesitates, and dignity, once overshadowed, asserts itself without spectacle. Time stretches. Each small gesture, each silent acknowledgement, reinforces the shift. No loud declarations are needed. The reckoning has been thorough, and the balance has begun to settle. A final hush passes over the cabin. The father, hand on his child's shoulder, steps forward. Silence carries them out, leaving the traces of accountability in the air. The twins sit by the window, sunlight spilling across the kitchen table. Their mother places a cup of tea in front of each of them. The clink of porcelain, louder than expected in the quiet room. I can't believe it. All of that, and they didn't even see it coming. The elder twin whispers, voice soft, careful. You mean we didn't even have to scream, replies the younger, tracing the rim of the cup. Just stayed calm, let them unravel themselves. Narration. Silence, restrained, carries more weight than any outburst. Humiliation faced head-on, dignity maintained. The victory isn't loud, but it resonates. The mother sits opposite them, her hands folded. It wasn't easy, she admits. Every glance, every whisper, you felt it, didn't you? The twins nod. Their eyes meet hers, shared understanding without words. Narration. In the aftermath, the smallest freedoms, a clear gaze, a seat unchallenged, a simple act of kindness returned, feel monumental. The world has shifted in ways unseen, subtle, but enduring. I never thought standing still could feel so powerful, the elder twin murmurs, voice catching briefly. The mother smiles faintly, eyes tracing the sun's path across the tiles. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just holding your space, breathing through it, knowing you're right. You think it changes anything? The younger twin asks, hesitant. Narration. Change begins quietly, not with declarations, but in each subtle assertion of self-respect. Each small act of patience, each unbroken composure, layers into the collective memory of justice. Double quotes. Yes, the mother says simply. Every time you refuse to be diminished, someone noticed, and that ripples out. It always does. The twins exchange a long, reflective glance, the weight of the moment settling, pride tempered by patience, triumph felt in the heart, not announced to the world. They sit together, quiet, strong, watching sunlight move across the room, witnessing dignity in motion, justice served silently. He steps into the office, briefcase in hand. The usual chatter is absent. Colleagues glance up, then quickly look away. Morning, he says, voice carrying a practiced ease. But it lands flat, no one replies. Narration. Silence stretches across the room, a quiet indictment louder than any confrontation. Privilege built on fear and prejudice crumbles under observation. He approaches his desk. The chair opposite him remains empty. A meeting invite returns marked declined. Did you get the notes from yesterday? He asks, fingers trembling over the keyboard. A soft cough comes from the doorway. A coworker appears briefly, eyes darting, then retreats. Everything okay? He asks again, voice higher than intended. Narration. The world he once controlled with casual authority now moves around him. Whispered regrets circulate like invisible currents, eroding his influence. He dials a number, hoping for support. Voicemail. Another call. Same. Please. He mutters, a tremor in his jaw. Someone. Anyone. No one answers. Narration. Public recognition of wrongdoing has shifted perception irreversibly. Meetings go unscheduled, invitations unextended, casual greetings withheld. The structure that upheld his dominance shows cracks, small gestures multiplying into undeniable consequences. A colleague passes by, lowering eyes, leaving him in the corridor alone. His shadow stretches across the floor, long and empty. He sits at his desk, staring at a screen, numbers and messages, meaningless. The power that relied on prejudice and fear offers no comfort here. Narration. Influence secured through oppression collapses quietly, yet decisively. Accountability, even when subtle, reshapes reality. The room, once indifferent, now participates in the moral balancing of justice. He leans back, shoulders slumping. No words come, only a slow, inward acknowledgement. The fall of privilege is silent, unceremonious, but permanent. Did you see the post? One twin asks, scrolling on her phone. It's everywhere now. The other replies quietly, eyes lingering on the screen. Narration. Small acknowledgements ripple outward. A comment here, a shared story there. The weight of truth gently presses against old walls of denial. The mother enters the room, holding 2 mugs of tea. She sets them down, hands steady, I never thought people would listen, she says softly. You did, the father responds, voice low, measured. We just waited. A brief silence fills the room. Not uncomfortable, but full, like a pause for reckoning, a moment for reflection. People are finally noticing. One twin whispers, even at school, my teacher, she actually apologized. Narration, subtle changes, small shifts in behavior. These are the cracks in systems that once seemed unbreakable. Integrity and patience plant seeds far stronger than confrontation. Alone, the father leans back, eyes scanning the quiet living room, dignity, restraint. Those were our shields, he murmurs, not just against them, but against letting anger control us. A twin tilts her head, studying him, and it worked. Yes, he says, voice firm yet gentle. It always works. Eventually, the world notices, even if slowly. Narration. In these private moments, the family senses the broader effect. Institutional acknowledgement, minor reforms, whispers of accountability, all growing from quiet courage. The mother smiles, though not broadly. Just enough to signify relief, endurance, hope. The twins exchange a glance. Silent communication passing between them. Triumph without spectacle, justice without chaos. The father closes his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. Narration. Justice is quiet, hope is patient, and when dignity prevails, its echoes endure far beyond the moment of victory. She sits alone in the dim staff lounge, fingers hovering over her phone. Another comment, another share, she mutters under her breath. Narration. Every notification is a reminder, a subtle hammer striking the edifice she built with prejudice. Her carefully curated reputation is unraveling in real time. A colleague passes the doorway, hesitates, then looks away. She swallows, voice low. Can I help you with something? No, it's fine, the colleague replies, stepping back. Whispers trail behind them, indistinct but heavy. Her child peeks into the room, small and curious. Mum, why is everyone staring? She turns, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. They're busy, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about. Narration. Even her personal life feels strained, stretched thin by judgment and guilt. Power gained through prejudice offers no comfort now, only solitude. She scrolls through old emails. Accolades, commendations, notes of praise, all hollow echoes now. A brief pause, trembling hands. Everything I worked for, she whispers, voice cracking. Gone. Narration. Isolation tightens its grip. Colleagues avoiding her gaze, whispers amplifying. Each glance, each hushed exchange, marks another brick removed from her fortress of authority. Her phone buzzes with messages she cannot bear to read. She sets it down, head in hands. A cleaning staff passes, offers a small nod of acknowledgement. She hesitates, then looks up, but the distance remains. The room is quiet, yet it screams judgment. Mom, are you okay? The child asks again, voice small, anxious. I'll be okay, she says, though she cannot be certain. Narration. Shame settles like dust over every corner of her life, her career, her relationships. Prejudice built on power cannot withstand scrutiny. Slowly, quietly, it collapses, leaving only the echo of choices long past. The twins stand at the security line, backpacks slung, their movements measured. ATSA agent gives a slight nod, not intrusive, just acknowledgement. Everything okay? One twin whispers, voice low, cautious. Yeah. The other replies, shoulders easing, feels normal again. Narration. Small gestures, subtle recognition, mark the difference. Where suspicion once shadowed every step, respect now lingers quietly, almost imperceptibly. They move down the terminal, footsteps echoing lightly. A flight attendant offers a faint smile as they pass. No judgment, only courtesy. Twin murmurs, it's different. She smiles gently, eyes scanning the room. Yes, people. They're noticing, just not loudly. But it matters. Narration. Public recognition need not shout to be felt. The ripple of dignity, once met with scorn, now flows subtly, reshaping interactions without spectacle. The father walks behind them, quiet, composed. He pauses near the window, observing a colleague across the terminal avert their gaze politely rather than sneer. Dad, the other twin says, leaning slightly closer, does it feel like victory? He shakes his head, almost imperceptibly. No, victory is loud. This is life restored. Respect quietly earned, not demanded. A small group of passengers watches them board, nodding with faint smiles, whispering among themselves. Not a celebration, but acknowledgement. Narration. Integrity. not spectacle, cements triumph. The father's restraint, mirrored in his family's composure, radiates subtly, teaching patience, quiet strength, and moral authority. The plane door closes. The twins settle in their seats. Mum smooths a strand of hair, glances at them with calm pride. I think we can breathe, one whispers. The father, looking forward, replies softly, we've always had reason to. Narration, life continues, marked now by dignity, moral clarity, and a quiet, enduring respect that no act of prejudice can erase. The family gathers in the living room, sunlight cutting through the blinds. The twins lounge quietly, backpacks set aside. Mum's voice is soft, careful. We didn't win today. She pauses, fingers tracing the edge of the table. We reminded them we belonged. The father nods slightly, eyes distant but calm. Belonging. It's quieter than people expect, but stronger. A television hums in the background, a news reporter's voice overlaying the scene. In the quiet of one father's restraint, a system trembled, not through outrage, but dignity and echo that will linger. One twin glances up. Do you think they'll remember? They will. The mother says, eyes steady. Even the smallest moment leaves a mark. They can't unsee what respect it looks like when it's quietly claimed. Narration, words, brief and measured, stretch farther than action alone. They carry resonance through hallways, offices, airplanes, and back into the private corners of hearts, reminding witnesses that integrity can outlast the loudest insults. Father leans forward slightly, hands folded. Every time someone treats you like less, remember your calm, your patience, your voice. They matter more than anger ever could. The twins exchange a glance, absorbing not only the lesson but the weight of restraint, the subtle power. In composure, the mother speaks again, almost whispering. We didn't shout, we didn't escalate, we reminded them who we are. Narration, in these measured words, in the quiet admissions of victory without spectacle, the family creates ripples. Justice is reinforced not with headlines alone, but through enduring perception. Through subtle acknowledgement, through the echo of dignity that carries past the moment and into memory. The twins nod, silent but firm. Father rises, glances at the television, then at them, a faint, approving smile. Let them remember, he murmurs, quietly, but forever. The father sits at the kitchen table, morning light filtering softly through the blinds. The twins are at the counter, spreading toast and jam, moving with calm ease. Mother places a mug in front of him. Coffee. He nods, fingers tracing the rim. Thank you. The television is muted. Images of city streets scrolling silently. People walking, talking, commuting. Nothing overt, just life moving forward. The younger twin glances at him. Dad, are we done now? He looks up, voice low. Done, maybe, but done isn't what matters. Narration. The father's gaze drifts outward, past the window to streets waking to a day unaware of the quiet victory within a small apartment. Justice has no fanfare. It breathes in measured moments, in restraint, in dignity that doesn't clamor for recognition. Mother leans slightly closer. People notice, even if they don't say it. Noticing is enough, he says softly. It changes the air. That's all a system needs to shift. The older twin tilts their head, but no one clapped. He shakes his head. The loudest applause often belongs to the wrong side. Silence carries truth further than shouts ever could. Narration. In the calm of ordinary life, the resonance of what was righted lingers. Social awareness begins subtly, respectful glances on airplanes, hesitant acknowledgments in public spaces. Small acts of inclusion where ignorance once reigned. Mother's hand brushes his shoulder. You didn't raise your voice. No, he says, but I raised my presence. That matters. The father rises, moves to the window, staring down the street. His reflection merges with the passing city. Narration. Justice wasn't loud. It was the silence that followed, the echo of restraint, the quiet imprint of dignity, leaving behind more than any outburst ever could. The twins watch, understanding settling in without words, as the room holds a final, profound quiet.